Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well today, and I hope everybody had a really beautiful Thanksgiving with their loved ones last week. I'm really excited about my show today because I find this subject so fascinating. My guest is author Carmen Turner-Schott, and she's going to be sharing with us how to transform our life using our sun signs and our houses and where the planets are placed, and we're going to learn a lot about that today. So she's going to join me in just a couple of minutes. I really love talking about this. To all my regulars who listen to me every week, thank you so much. I love you guys. Thanks for being here with me. It means a lot. And for those who are listening to me for the first time, welcome to my show. I really appreciate you being here. A little about me. I am also an author and a photographer artist, and I have a book, and it's titled Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And in my book, I have 30 manifesting stories, along with the photographs that I took of the contributors manifesting postcards. And the stories are really cool about how their desires and their wishes came to fruition. And in the book, I also have writing exercises, and it helps us get clear on what we want to manifest, because most of us want to manifest more abundance in what? Love, money, health, career, right? Passion, that's where we want more of. So that's all in the book. And if you're interested in doing it, I have tons of exercises in there, and you can read people's incredible journeys of transformation, inspiration, and manifesting. And you can find my book, Postcards to the Universe, at one of your favorite bookstores. But I do want to mention that currently at Mango, MAGO.biz, they are having a 30% off sale on all of the books until January 31st. So a book is a great gift for the holidays, including my author who's going to join me here in a second. Her book, people who love to read, love to get books for presents. So remember that. I'm always asking for people to keep sending me manifesting postcards. If you're like, what are you talking about? Just go to postcardstotheuniverse.com, and it tells you how to make a manifesting postcard and where to send it. And if you're on Facebook, you can join my public Facebook group titled Postcards of Love. It's all uplifting stuff. Now, each week I share I call them a magical message, and it's an image of a manifesting postcard that I photograph with an affirmation that I like to focus on, and I like to think about affirmations. I use them daily. I find them powerful ways to shift our beliefs. So this week's magical message is the alchemist, one who transforms. It's a spiritual alchemy in stages that I want to talk about today. So when we're shifting ourselves, right, we're part of the alchemy of the shift is burning off all the old elements of ourselves that no longer serve us. Our preconceived notions about who we are, our identities, our beliefs, and they've been put to the test, right? And a lot of times it's been, they call it the dark night of the soul, for example. So from there, we tap into the unconscious, what contains the hidden parts of ourselves, which we are afraid of, right? And we don't explore those parts of ourselves. So this stage is where we start to think about and free ourselves from our inauthentic and this identity that we put out, but it's not our true identity. And it can come out because of a traumatic event, things that we've pushed down into our psyche, and it's nudging us, and it's time for us to free ourselves of our past painful experiences. And when we free ourselves of the resentment towards ourselves and others, it liberates us from the negative emotions that we no longer identify with. And the character or, the persona that we've been playing instead of who we truly are, and getting aware of our own thoughts, feelings, and desires. But learning how to do that without becoming too attached to them. This is part of the alchemical process as a shifting spiritually. And we begin a process of embodiment as the spirit begins to process this, and it materializes. And we start to feel unified in the body and soul. And we bring in the different strands of our true self, right? So harmony starts to become achieved between the different elements of our being. And we start to trust our intuition and understand our true emotions. And we begin to unify these attributes. And it continues into the decay or the discarding of the old self and the rebirthing of the one new and true self, or we can also call it like the rebirth of the phoenix from its ashes, right? That's what happens. And spiritualization gives great relief as we begin to see the world in new and different and evolved ways, and letting go of those parts that no longer serve us. And we start to assimilate any shadow aspects of our true self, right? And the ego isn't dominating our behavior any longer. And it's when we bring in all the different aspects of ourselves, all the polarities, the feminine, the masculine, the mind, body, spirit, soul, and it becomes a whole. And this is the higher self, and when the higher self emerges. And I've been thinking about alchemy and transformation a lot. I think about that all the time. And I just wanted to talk about that and share that a little bit today, because I think we're all collectively doing that, and probably personally we're all doing that in our own ways. So that was just a thought I wanted to share with you guys. Next week, I have Lauren Walker, and she's going to talk about clearing our energetic pathways and calming the storms of our stressful modern life, right? With her unique healing system. She does energy medicine, yoga, and her book is titled The Energy to Heal. And she's going to share a wide range of healing techniques with us, including chakra clearing, the benefits of EFT, breathing practices, yoga nidra, and more. And so her book is You Can Reclaim Your Life and Become Strong and Vibrant Again. I think we need a little bit of that. So that's going to be next week. But I'm really excited to talk to my guest today. So let's get her out here. Her name is Carmen Turner-Schott, and she's an author, and she's a practicing clinical social worker, psychotherapist, and astrologer with national and international clientele. She has presented astrology workshops and groups for the Association of Research and Enlightenment, and she is the founder of Deep Soul Divers Astrology. Turner-Schott has worked with victims of trauma for over 25 years, and her book, which is what we're really going to focus on today, Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing, Build Resilience and Transform Your Life Through Astrology, where she uses therapeutic techniques through the Zodiac, uniting sun sign traits with the 12 houses, and her book teaches us how to accomplish 3 important things: transformation, which I just talked about, which I love, healing, and resiliency. Each chapter focuses on a sign and a house, exploring them separately and in connection to the planets. This beginner-friendly book provides insights on all 12 signs and reveals how our birth chart can help us overcome challenges and improve our well-being. So you can find more about her if you go to her website, which is www.8, the number 8, and 12 houses.com. Welcome, Carmen. Thanks for being here with me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Like I said to you before we went on, I'm really excited because I'm very fascinated by astrology. I know a lot about my sun, my moon, and my ascendant, but the houses is where I get a little confused. So before we really dive into it, can you share a little bit with us about how, about yourself and how you got interested in astrology and using the signs and the houses as a tool for healing?
Sure. So, when I was younger and, as a child in high school, I was always a little bit different. So I always was, very sensitive and empathic and would dream things and feel things, and no one could really explain to me why I was so different than my friends and family. So I had a couple interesting experiences when I was a senior in high school. One of them was I lost a friend through an accidental shooting. So the first person that I ever knew that died, I was 16. And so that really changed and transformed my life in a big way, and made me start questioning, why am I here? What is my purpose on earth, right? And so after that experience, and with an experience with a glowing ball of light in my doorway when I was 16, that's what actually led me to wanting to learn more about astrology and all of these things. So I happened to go into a little mystical bookstore, and I was buying all kinds of books because I wanted to learn and study and try to figure out, why I was so different. And I bought a book about astrology and read about my sun sign Virgo. And for the first time, it all made sense. And I started doing my chart and teaching myself, and I realized, oh, wow, my sun is in the 12th house. I have 8th house planets. That's why I'm different. That's why I have these experiences I can't explain. And so I started becoming an astrological counselor when I was 19 and doing consults for people in college. And I became, a social worker. So I, got a psychology degree and got my master's, and always did astrology as a part-time job, so to speak, hobby. And it's always been a big part of my life until this day. And I've always used it as a practical tool in self-awareness for myself and others in my life, in my career, in my daily, day-to-day with friends, family, loved ones, and with teens and children and people I've worked with, and seeing those energies play out of people's sun signs. I saw that they had strengths, and everyone has strengths and weaknesses, right, in our personality. And that's what I really use astrology for, is to teach people the basics about it so they can love it just as much as I do, and make it very simple and practical. And that's my goal, because astrology is very complex in many ways, and you could spend multiple lifetimes studying it, and I'm still learning. I mean, there's medical astrology, there's locational astrology, there's personality astrology. There's all kinds of different things you can always learn, and that's what I love about it. I'm always learning something new, even though I've been doing this since I was, 16. I'm 47 now, and I'm still learning new things, and that's why I love it so much. So I want to, I wrote this book to share my passion with others about the sun signs, but, I've wrote some other books I self-published based on a lot of my research, which has to do with trauma and healing and dealing with that. So I really love your opening message that you had. That really resonated with me. The Phoenix, that's all about the 8th house in our astrology chart. The sign Scorpio is the Phoenix, healing, rebirth, transformation, all of those things. So I really enjoy what you said at the beginning. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it just always falls. It's so weird because I say this all the time. It always falls that the right message I want to share that week correlates with my guest for the week, and I never put them together purposely. I never put them together. So it always falls that way, and I feel like, well, that's it. That means that I'm supposed to share it, right?
That was perfect. I can't even tell you how perfect that was. My first book was called The Mysteries of the 8th Astrological House, Phoenix Rising. That was the first book I ever wrote in 2010. And it was based on research of Scorpio and 8th house people and their journey, their spiritual gifts of transformation and healing. So I love it. That was so perfect.
Oh, see, and I didn't even know that. See, it's perfect. Okay, so everybody, almost everybody pretty much has heard about their sign, right? Their sun sign. And so can you share a little bit about what our sun sign is for the layperson who may kind of understand but not really understand? Okay, go ahead.
Sure, I'll kind of explain that and kind of like, how we get the birth chart and the houses too, real quick.
Okay.
So when you're born, when you're at Earth and you're looking up at the sky, everyone is born on a certain month, day, and year. And everyone's born, and just knowing the month and the day and the year, that's how we know what sun sign you are. So most people know, okay, I was born on August 26th, so I'm a Virgo. And the sun was in the sign, constellation in the sky of Virgo or Leo or Scorpio, when you were born. So when you're born, most people know, their birth sign, which is your sun sign. But to truly get a full chart, what we do is we look at the exact time you're born. The time is very important to astrologers because that changes the placement of the planets in the houses. And what the houses are, the way I describe it is when you're looking up at the sky when you're born, there's astrologers cut the sky into 12 sections. So each section of the sky rules a certain area of life, which are the houses. And there's 12 houses and there's 12 signs, right? 12 zodiac signs. And each sign is ruled, rules that house. And there's the planets that are also going through those different star constellations, when you're born. And what we do is we take a picture of the sky and we put it on a piece of paper, okay? And that piece on the piece of paper is a wheel. And the wheel has 12 sections and they're numbered 1 through 12. Those are the houses. And depending on what day, time, year of your birth and place, everything, we will know what signs are on each house on the area of the sky when you're born, what house the planets are in, what sign the planets are in, and what your rising sign is, your moon sign, all those things will be revealed. But you have to really have all of that information to really see the full picture. And you can do that. You can go to astro.com and get a free birth chart wheel. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about, what it looks like. But for, just people listening in, the sun sign, most people do resonate with their sun sign, which is your main identity, your personality, how you are on a deeper level. And then your moon sign is your emotional nature.
I want to talk about the moon and the rising or ascendant, but I just looked at the time and we're at our first break. So let's take our break here and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Perfect.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Hi, welcome back. If you're just joining me, I have author Carmen Turner-Schott with me today, and we're talking about her book, Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing: Build Resilience and Transform Your Life Through Astrology. So, Carmen, we're going to get into the moon and our rising or ascendant. It's called rising or ascendant. So if you had to take a guess, what sign would you think I was from my show?
Oh.
If you just had to take a guess.
Man. Are you a Leo?
I'm actually a Gemini, but I have a moon and a rising in Leo.
I was going to say I felt Leo. I felt Leo because of the artistic nature.
Right.
I was looking at your website, but I also felt definitely Gemini as well, because Gemini is all about broadcasting and knowledge and learning, and third house stuff, which is radio, TV, right?
I know, isn't that funny? So I'm a Gemini and a double Leo. I know, that's funny. Okay, I know. So I didn't know until probably about 5 or 6 years ago about the importance of the moon and our ascendant and our houses. So I didn't even know what my moon and ascendant was until probably about 6 years ago. So what is our moon sign? How does that show up in the world, and our rising or ascendant?
Sure.
It's been called both.
Well, the moon sign, the moon is our emotional nature. It's how our reactions, our inclinations, our urges, it's our inner self, our deeper soul, how we feel. And, when you look at the sky, there's the moon affects our emotional nature. Like when there's a full moon, everyone feels that. They feel a bit more emotional. They might have insomnia because the moon affects the tides of the ocean. So, of course, it affects us. So the moon sign in astrology and astronomy, the moon changes signs every 2 to 3 days. So it moves pretty quickly through each of the 12 zodiac signs. So depending on what day, time, or actually just day, month, and year, you can kind of know by looking up online. You can Google, what sign the moon was in when you were born. Even if you don't know your exact time, you can pretty much get your moon sign and your sun sign calculation without a time of birth. Because some people, they don't know their time of birth for some reason. It's not on their birth certificate, but you can still know your moon sign. So the moon, to me, is a very important placement, just like the sun. And I'm actually got a book coming out with Lillian this coming summer, Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing, to accompany this book. So it'll be all about the moon sign. And I always feel like most people tell me they resonate very much with their moon sign just as much as their sun sign. It's like they feel like they're both. Both those energies are like very much a part of their main personality. And then the rising sign. So to get an accurate rising sign, you have to know what time you're born. And we need to know the place, because the rising sign can change depending, between 2 to 3 hours, right? It can shift. So even twins that are born different times can have a different chart, a slightly different chart, or the moon might change signs within a couple hours, or, the ascendant sign might change, if they're born like 3 or 4 hours apart, things like that. And so the rising sign is your mask. It's how you relate to stress. It's how you relate to many areas of your life. So it's how people perceive you. So when they first meet you, which is when I first got on here with you, I felt a Leo energy. And that's because that's your mask. That's like how people perceive you. Then when they really get to know you, well, yeah, you got a little bit more Leo, right? But you got Gemini. So they really when people really get to know you, they see more of your sun and moon sign, especially if they're different than your rising. So like for me, I'm a Virgo rising, I'm a Virgo sun. So what they see is kind of what they get when they get to know me. It's like, oh yeah, you're like I thought you were. But if it's different, people can misjudge you. They'll think you're a certain way, but then they're like, oh, you're really different when I got to know you. That's because your rising and your sun sign are different, right? And so those three, most of the people, on Twitter and, even teenagers, my daughter's age, they know what their top three is. That's what we call it, which is your sun, moon, and rising. And those are important. But what you really need to know is what houses your sun is in and moon is in and what house they're in, because that will show what energy you express into different areas of life. So if your sun is in Leo and it's in the fourth house, for instance, which is the house of home and family and your childhood and your roots and your parents, and if your sun is there, your main identity will come through your home, your family, and you'll be very focused on that area of life, okay? And so in my opinion, as an astrologer, the houses are just as important as what sign the planets are in. So the houses mean everything, and they can change the energy of your personality. They can change it, especially, if someone has a stellium, which is like 3 or more planets in one sign in one house. I find that house energy takes over, and that personality feels more like that. Yeah.
I see that. So it's interesting you said that. So there's a lot of Geminis in my family. My mother's a Gemini. We're 3 days apart. I'm a Gemini.
Wow.
My ex-husband was a Gemini. My brother-in-law's a Gemini. My nephew's a Gemini. We're all very different, right?
Yeah.
So my Gemini the sun in Gemini is in the 11th house.
Oh, okay. So it's the house of Aquarius. It's the house, it's what you're doing, like when, what I heard on here, humanitarian causes, helping large groups of people, being a part of a group, doing things of service, humanitarian work, volunteerism, helping people on a large scale. And so guess what? Radio, all these things you're doing help people. You can hear your podcast probably in any country. So, you're really spreading knowledge and wisdom, and that's the 11th house. It's about friends, acquaintances, groups, and humanitarian causes. That's where your main identity will be. Yeah, you'll shine.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, when I kind of fell into radio, I never had thought about it, and it just felt great from the beginning. So I fell into it. I never had the idea of doing radio, when I first started with Postcards. So it worked out. And then, that's interesting. And my moon is in Leo in the first house.
Oh, that's a really good placement of the moon. The moon in the first house makes you very strong and resilient, like physically, emotionally, everything. And you also very creative. Leo moon, Leo rising, that's a self-expression, art, creativity, children, working with children in some way. A lot of Leos, they're generous, they're fun, they like to have fun and make people happy. So yeah, I could see that, definitely.
Yeah, that's why my niece, I don't have kids of my own, but my niece and I are super close, and she loves hanging out with me because we have fun together.
Yeah.
I get like a kid. I'm like a little kid. So I'll let you explain. Okay, so each sign rules a house. So why don't we start there? Why don't you go with the houses and which sign rules the house? And maybe you can touch a little bit on each characteristic of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's once you kind of once you really understand this, it makes sense. So when we start the zodiac, Aries starts the zodiac. Aries starts the spring, right? When things are blooming. It's like the end of March to April, right? That's the sign Aries. The sun is in Aries. Aries starts the first house in our chart. Okay. So it's sign number 1. It rules the first house. And we go right down the row. Second sign is Taurus. It rules the second house. Okay. Then the third sign is Gemini. It rules the third. And and we go on. Cancer is the fourth. It rules the fourth. Leo is the fifth sign. It rules the fifth. Virgo is the 6th. Libra is the 7th. It rules the 7th house. Scorpio is the 8th sign. It rules the 8th house. Sag is the 9th sign, rules the 9th. Capricorn rules the 10th. Aquarius rules the 11th. And Pisces rules the final house in the chart, which is the 12th house. And each of these houses has the personality traits and issues that are similar to the sign that rules it. So, for instance, Aries rules the physical body. It rules, where you're motivated, where you are driven, where you are, very strong and passionate and direct. And the first house rules the body and the physical appearance, right? How people see you. The second house is all about Taurus, money, finance, security, comfort, all the things that Taurus sun sign people like. All that energy rules the second house. And then third house is communication. It's broadcasting, writing, speaking, learning, short journeys. Guess what rules that? Gemini.
Right.
All the things Gemini likes to do. Communication. They're all about communication and learning. And then you've got Cancer, which is, the home and family. Cancers are known to be nurturing. They love their home. They love to be home. They're homebodies. They love their family. They're nostalgic. They're connected to the past. All that energy is fourth house energy, same as the sign Cancer, right? And then Leo rules the fifth house of creativity, self-expression, fun, all of those things. So you just kind of, once you know the basic birth sun sign traits, then you can associate it with the house because they're identical. Same energy. It's all about energy.
Okay. That's interesting. What sign is your dog?
Oh yeah, she's driving me. She's a Cancer. She's a Cancer Leo cuss. So she hears anything, she goes crazy. No, she's a mama's girl. So,
I hear. She's like, I want to be hurt too. Talk about my sign.
She is. She's a Cancer Leo girl. Let me tell you, she loves people, and anywhere I take her, I mean, she tries to jump out the window at the drive-through to get people. She just cries for them. She just wants attention. That Leo. Then she's always by my side. Cancer, attached to her mother, which is a Cancer thing.
What kind of dog is she?
She's a mini golden doodle. Really cute. Looks like a little Ewok. She's like real curly
sweet.
And yeah. So she's my girl. Yeah.
So where do we leave off? The fifth house or the Leo? Leo. Okay.
Leo,
creativity.
And then we got, Virgo is the sixth house, which is health, diet, routine, structure, which and all things Virgos like, right? Order, routine, all of those things. And then Libra rules the house of marriage and partnership, which is the seventh house, which we call the descendant. Okay, the descendant. So the first house is the ascendant, which is the first house cusp, and the seventh house is the descendant. It's the seventh house. And whatever sign is on that house shows what kind of partner you're going to be, what kind of people you're going to be drawn to marry, or business partners, things like that, how you are in a relationship energy. So we always want to look at the seventh house for that, and any planets there will really show us a lot about your marriage and partnership and what some learning might be, some karmic issues, right? Some things to heal. And then we get into the eighth house, which is where I do a lot of my research. The 8th and 12th are my big researches, but the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. It's the house of death, the house of transformation, rebirth, regeneration, healing, trauma, past life karma, all these very taboo subjects, sexuality, everything that's a little bit uncomfortable in society, in the world, it kind of falls in that 8th house. It's a very intense house. Just like Scorpios are known to be intense, right, emotionally. And so that's why, that Scorpio energy rules that 8th house, and that's why we get the interpretations we do. And then the 9th house is Sagittarius, which is the traveler. So the 9th house rules foreign travel, foreign culture, different languages, different religions, hope, faith. A lot of people, 9th house is ruled by Jupiter because Sag is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is good luck, good fortune, optimism. So the 9th house is a very happy house. It's about higher learning, going to college, teaching yourself things, learning things, right? Religion, philosophy, all those kind of things. And so people that have ninth house planets, I find they love to study and learn metaphysical things and research and learn as much as they can about a lot of different topics, right? And then you have Capricorn, which is the 10th house. That's your career. The 10th house is your career cusp. So when you know a sun sign Capricorn, they're known to be, hardworking, could be workaholics. They're really into being successful and achieving and being productive and working hard. And that's all the 10th house is about. It's kind of what career we're going to be drawn to. And we call that the midheaven in the chart. So the midheaven is your career cusp. And it's the sign that falls on the 10th house cusp is what your midheaven will be. So, for instance, my midheaven's Gemini. So I've always had two jobs, a normal full-time job, and then my hobby, which is astrology and writing and all these things. So I like having two things, which is the twin, right? Gemini. And I like to talk, write, do radio shows, all this stuff. So that's my 10th house cusp. So we want to look at the 10th and see what planets are there, what sign is there, and that'll show you kind of what your career is like, and maybe some career fields that are good for you, depending on what sign is on the 10th. And then the 11th house is groups, friendship, humanitarian causes, acquaintances, and it's the house of Aquarius. Aquariuses are known to be a little bit emotionally detached and aloof, and their whole thing is, they want to be free, they want to feel independent, they're innovative, they want to think outside the box, they like to question tradition, they're non-traditional. So all of that energy is 11th house energy. Okay.
Well, hold on for the 12th house because we'll do, and we're going to take our break here, and then we'll come back and talk about that. And then I want to talk about the significance of the houses for us. Okay, stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
welcome back. Okay, so we left off with the 12th house, and Pisces rules the 12th house, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Pisces, the 12th house is also, one of my favorite houses. I've done a lot of research on it. And when you have planets in the 12th house, it's the house of spirituality, cosmic consciousness, service to others, sacrifice, escapism, addiction, angels, mystical experiences. It's the unconscious, the house of the subconscious. So dreaming, sleep, all of those kind of things. So when people, and also creativity, and imagination. And so when you have planets in the 12th house, typically people are born very spiritual and with different strange experiences, like seeing angels or an orb in their doorway,
Yeah.
like, all these different things that they can't explain, and they're very empathic. So they just like a Pisces, they are, they're the fish. They don't really have protection. So the 12th house is all about having boundaries, which is also something that Pisces sun sign people are learning, is to be able to say no and to protect their energy, to protect their sensitive nature, right, by having boundaries and making sure that they, stand up for themselves. So all of that kind of energy is 12th house energy. So the 12th house is the house of connecting to a higher power. So it's very powerful, and it's a very special house, and it's one of my favorite. I got a book about it as well. It's called The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, Fallen Angels, and it's out there as well, one of my new books. But I love the 8th and 12th are my two favorite houses, because I find that people that have planets in those houses have very similar experiences.
Oh,
and
interesting. That's interesting.
Yes.
So when I have my chart, I have a few, there's certain houses that I don't have anything in, and I have a few, like I have Uranus and Virgo in the second, and I have Jupiter in Virgo in the second. I have 1, 2, and I also have Pluto in Virgo in the second. So I have a lot of Virgo in my
Pluto in the
chart,
second.
and I have a lot of
Virgo,
Taurus in the 10th house.
Yeah.
I have Venus in Taurus in the 10th and Saturn in Taurus. So I see the Taurus because, the way a Gemini is described is flighty and airy and social butterfly and here and there. I like a lot of my own time. I need to be grounded. I love my home. I love food, sleep, and all that stuff, So it's like, must be my Taurus, right? The Taurus that I have. So what happens when we have a lot of signs? So I obviously have 3 signs in Virgo and 2 signs in Taurus. I mean, two planets, not signs, planets in Taurus.
So you have quite a bit of second house energy then, with all of those second house planets. Like I said, that house takes over and changes the Virgo energy a little bit, like a Taurus energy, right? And so that's why you resonate with that. And then having, is Taurus on your 10th house cusp?
Taurus, I have Venus and Taurus in the 10th, and I have Saturn and Taurus in the 10th. So I don't know about cusp. Yeah, I don't know about cusp.
I think it's probably your midheaven. Taurus is probably your midheaven, which would mean that makes sense. So out in the public, out in the world, and work and career, you're going to feel very much like a Taurus, which you're going to like comfort, security, good food, good drinks, right? Peace. Harmony, all of those things, comfort, stability, security, and especially with planets in Virgo in the second, security, and also, it's all about self-esteem. And, the second house isn't always all about material. It's not always all about material possessions. It's, because it's money. We always say money, finance, and material things, but it's also about emotional worth, self-esteem, values. What we value is also second house energy, right? And so that makes sense. You got a good balance, and we all have kind of a different balance of different energies. But one of the other things in our chart that I don't really get into it in this book specifically, but is the North Node and the South Node in your chart. So the North Node looks like a horseshoe, okay, and then there's an upside down horseshoe, which is your South Node. So the North Node is your soul mission this lifetime. And so when you look at the South Node, whatever sign it's in, and house it's in, you're going to connect with that energy as well. You're going to feel, very much like that sign. So I'm a South Node Taurus. So I feel like I'm a Taurus person, and I'm learning to let go of Taurus traits to become a Scorpio, because that's my North Node. And so most of our lives, our nodes are so important. And I'm going to be writing a book about the nodes next year, but they are why we're here, right? And so if you look at that upside down horseshoe, see what sign it's in, and you can look it up in my book, Sometimes Houses and Healing, and read about that sign that your node is in, because that is going to resonate with your deeper personality too. And you're going to feel very much like that sign. And it's going to be natural because it's what you've already mastered, right?
So that's the South Node is what you've already mastered, and the North Node is what you're going toward. Okay. I think I did have that somewhere, but I don't remember what they are. I have to look at those again. I'm curious about, okay, because this one is like just in there, and this is like different than, I have Neptune and Scorpio in the 4th house. So when I was reading about the house, I'm reading about the house attributes and, and Neptune in the house, but what does it mean when it's in Scorpio in the 4th house?
Well, Neptune in Scorpio is pretty powerful. So, Neptune is the planet of spirituality. It's the planet of illusion. It's the planet of escapism. It's the planet of addiction. It's the planet where we see things with rose-colored glasses. There's like a fog. It's sometimes disillusionment or not seeing things clearly. So how I would analyze a Neptune in the 4th could possibly be that, when you were growing up in childhood, you may not have seen situations the way they really were. Okay. And there could have been some illusions surrounding a parent, right? One of your parents, and maybe they struggled with something, could be, a depression, different things like that. And you didn't know it, or maybe even alcohol, because alcohol rules Neptune. I often see that could be, or when you get married and have your own home and family, there can be some disillusionment with your partner, your marriage, your home, something that you just don't quite feel comfortable with, right? But then that's one interpretation that kind of plays out. And also, I can also see someone that does spiritual work from home in their house, because Neptune is all about spirituality and creativity and music and art and beauty, right? Neptune's very creative planet and artistic. So art and all that, because Neptune rules Pisces. So anything with Pisces is Neptune, right? And so I would say in Scorpio, definitely having it in Scorpio is going to heighten your psychic abilities and your intuitive abilities, okay? Because it's in a water sign, which is Scorpio, and Scorpios are very perceptive, very deep and mystical. So it's gonna help you actually having it in Scorpio, because Scorpios are perceptive, and it helps with that illusion a little bit. It helps you not be that way as much, right? That's what I would interpret. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So by the way you're describing it, it's helping me understand how that relates in my own life, right? And how it shows up here. Because understanding the planet, I got, understanding the house I got, but now talking with you, I'm understanding how it manifests in the sign in the house.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes. Very much so.
Okay. Okay, and then I have Mars and Sagittarius in the 5th house.
Oh, well, that's why you're artistic and creative. Mars in the 5th, my daughter has that. She loves art and dance and anything, drive and passion to express your creative nature. So talents, hobbies, gifts, any kind of artistic gifts is 5th house, right? It's Leo. It could be acting, it could be music, it could be art, right? It could be performance. Anything that's fun, you're going to be really driven to express your creativity in some way. Because Mars is where we are driven and we have passion, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in my book, I have photographs in it. So, yeah, that's what I do every week. So, that makes total sense. So, for those people who are listening and they're like, "Oh, I understand now why, even though my sign says I'm this, I feel more like this sign," is to look where the planets and the signs show up in the houses, correct?
Yes, yeah. I recommend for any listeners that, that just know the basics, maybe just know their sun sign, to go to astro.com online, and you can do a free birth chart. So what you're going to need is your exact time of birth, and try to, if you can look in a baby book or ask a parent or look on your birth certificate, if you have a birth time, AM or PM, you're going to need to know that, and your city, state, country of birth, and then your month, day, and year. And you can, and a wheel will come up, and it'll have all these symbols right on the wheel. Well, you can always contact me if you want to through my website. Email me. I can, tell you where everything's at. I don't mind the email. You don't have to purchase any readings with me or anything. I just like to help people, but I'd like to help you get an accurate birth chart. Yeah, so you can know where all your planets are and what signs, and know your ascendant and all that. And so, if you should be able to do it on astro.com, but you can always email me, and I can shoot you a free art wheel. It's no big deal. And that way you'll know your chart. Yeah. I don't mind to do that.
Great.
I do it a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. So guys, if you're listening, that's really a nice offer. So let's say you're struggling with an issue, right? Like, money, finances is an issue, and you can't understand why you can't hold on to money, or relationships. Would looking at where the planets fall in the certain astrological signs in the houses really kind of help why you're having these struggles? Why this keeps showing up for you, let's say?
Definitely. You can, as an astrologer, we can see patterns. We can see, weaknesses and, different learning issues. That's what I call it, learning lessons. So, for instance, like, if someone has, let's say they have Pluto in the 7th house of marriage and partnership. That shows me, if I can get someone, meet someone when they're young, before they get married, before they, get into relationships, you can kind of prevent some things, right, by letting people know different energies that may be in their life, right, and then they can be aware of it to avoid it, right, and that can be with Pluto. So, for instance, Pluto in the 7th, there could be a tendency to attract abusive or controlling partners, okay? There also is a very strong desire to bond and have a marriage or partnership and intimacy with someone, which is a positive side of that placement, right? But there typically, it shows what kind of partner you may end up with. And Pluto there can show a lot of upheaval, right? Because it's the planet of nuclear power. It's the intensity, right? It's life or death. It's a lot of change and rebirth, energy, because it rules Scorpio, right? The sign Scorpio. So having Pluto in the 7th, I always, advise people to just be very cautious that you attract and get relationships with healthy people that are loving and give to you as much as you give to them, and also that aren't jealous or possessive, things like that, because we don't want domestic violence situations, control, in marriage and partnership. And Pluto can sometimes manifest that kind of learning lessons, right, when you're in a relationship. And so, and that's how you grow, because Pluto is also the planet of growth and healing. So some things may happen no matter what I advise, right? Because
it needs to be healed. Right.
Yes, they're meant to experience certain things so they can grow stronger and learn the lesson. And,
that's interesting. Well, should we be concerned if we don't have anything in certain houses? Or does that just mean, in this life, that's not something that's going to be a learning or a growing, like, you know what I mean? Because, like, there's so many houses and I'm only in a handful of them. The rest are empty.
Yeah. Everyone always asks me, what's it mean that my house is empty? It's not a bad thing. It just means that you don't have a major learning or karmic, learning or experience in that house. But what we look at is everyone is affected by all the houses, because we look at the sign that's on that house cusp. So when I talk about the house cusp, we have the ascendant, what signs there, the descendant. Then we talked about the career cusp, the midheaven, right? And then we look at the IC, is what we call it, as the fourth house cusp. And that's like the four main areas on that wheel. And then we look at what signs are on your second house of money. What signs are there? Even if you don't have planets there, I kind of analyze your relationship with money or how you feel about money, right? So like, if you have Aries on the second house, I find that, they like to spend money. They like nice things. They like do hobbies, right? Spend their money on hobbies, sports, things like that.
So then I have to have people come to you, because we're out of time. Carmen, you have to come back when your moon book comes out. We'll have you back.
Yes.
So thank you, Carmen. Check her out at
you.
www.8and12houses.com. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.